will do. That's the Impala way. Interesting that some people have sent in info about wildebeest at Gowrie Dam, because I would have thought then that this would maybe be the wildebeest that I saw earlier. So clearly there are different wildebeest bulls or groups around. I don't know if he has a group with him. Try and move back a little. He's heard something or seen something. Trotted across the road. He's listening intently, and I want to start the car right now. But I wonder if he heard other wildebeest. Because he suddenly got interested in something, and now he's just walking casually. You can see by his posture that he's stopping and listening, even if we can't see his head. He walks and he stops. I'm not hearing anything, but of course I'm not a wildebeest, so I can only guess that maybe he could hear something, maybe females, the rest of his herd. Bye bye, Mr. Wildebeest. Good luck in your quest. I just heard him. Ooh. Yes, now he's calling them. I can't see him, but listen. So he must have maybe heard other wildebeest, and now he's answering. Oh, he's listening now. Did you manage to hear that? Good name. That's how they get their name. Good name. Because they say GNU. No? Interesting. I hope he finds who he's looking for. Not the same kudu cow calf that I saw earlier. Different one. But there's another kudu here. Two kudus. Morning, ladies. Out in the open, lovely. Quite stately when they walk. And whilst they have very good eyesight, it's quite clear that their world revolves around what they can hear and what noises they can't, or the surround sound of life that tells them everything is okay. There's a steenbok from the kudu, the largest antelope that we're going to get here, to one of the smallest, the little steenbok, making its way through the guarri thicket. Also, big ears in relation to its body size, telling us that hearing is one of the most important facets of survival for these animals. And it's not just a case of hearing that that crunch of a twig if something's stalking them. It's hearing that alarm call of a squirrel, or the alarm call of a go-away bird, or very much like the francolin that we heard earlier when we were on Impala Plains. That sound of francolin being frightened and startled, flying up out of the grasses, is something that will make them very alert. But clearly those very long, thin legs with very, very narrow hooves allows them to walk in relative silence. Now, I was going to mention it when I went to collect the snakeskin earlier. I came back and I can't tell you how amazing it feels to walk on the wet earth and the wet ground, wet grasses. It's like Mother Nature just giving you a cushion of softness. So for them, they can hear a lot, despite the fact that they're walking through the bush. They don't really displace a lot of matter when they put their feet down. They're walking at a normal pace. When they lift the front foot, the back foot goes into pretty much into the hoof print of the front foot, so they lessen the chances of stepping on things, and it allows them 360-degree audio, and with those ears amplifying the sound, gives them a good idea of how safe it is to venture further on in their quest for food. Bye bye, kudu. Morning, Carol. Carol's in Santa Monica, California, wanting to know if animals ever get disturbed by human voices. Oh yes, they do. I have seen many times sitting with animals. In fact, yesterday was a perfect example. But I've seen how sitting with animals, sitting quietly, that parlor running, that's sort of rutting running. I was hoping we would hear the noise that goes along with it. sorry, as I was saying, sitting with animals, sitting nice and quietly with animals and other vehicles with loud people on them. People, a lot of times, people from the city don't quite understand how loud they are, because in the city there's so much ambient noise that you normally have a higher tone of, or rather a higher volume level than you do out here, especially on a day like today. It's relatively quiet, there's no wind, sound travels tremendously far and easily, especially being damp. Now, I've been with animals where the vehicles have been approaching, and from even a quarter of a mile away you can hear the laughter and the high volume of voices, and I've seen animals just get up and move off. Or elephants actually physically running away from the sound of voices. Of course, it depends on the individual animal. Some animals are completely or completely ignore the sound of voices. We've been sitting sometimes with leopard or with a sighting, and guides sometimes talk across the vehicles to each other, or you might get a guide that is explaining something to his guests and he has a little bit of a loud voice, or sometimes guests even that are quite loud, and quite often the leopard carries on sleeping, doesn't even lift its head. So sometimes, yes, sometimes animals are disturbed by our voice. I've inadvertently scared animals with my voice, and one of the most famous of all for me that I regret was up in the Timbavati. I was doing a game drive. I was managing a lovely little camp up there, which has now since been rebuilt and sold and then rebuilt and called something else. But I was in this beautiful grassland area, and there were guinea fowl all around me making alarm calls and going crazy, and I was expecting a cat, I was expecting a leopard, to be honest. And I looked down in the grass right next to me, because I hadn't seen it. The little opening in the grass suddenly came next to me, and crouched down, just ready to make a pounce, was this caracal, which is also known as a lynx. And I said, "Oh, there's a caracal," but I just said it a little bit too loud, and the caracal bolted, and the guinea fowl flew in every which direction, and of course I messed up the caracal's hunt, and I feel bad to this day that I disturbed this poor caracal. I also don't see them very often, and I think I've done that a few times, that I get so excited about seeing something, like, oh, there's something, and I just say it a little bit too loud, and it moves off. We are on Philemon's cut line. Jam on Twitter, tweet, wanting to know about wildebeest. It's only the second time, you're saying only the second time you've seen wildebeest alone. And is this usual or unusual? For wildebeest it's pretty much usual. Bulls, wildebeest bulls have a different kind of a rutting, a different kind of mating process to, say, impala. The impala rams herd females and keep them in, and pretty much keep them in his territory, in his lick, in his, where he has established his breeding ground. And wildebeest, on the other hand, they establish the territory and they wait for females to come to them. They do fight for territory, but invariably the strongest and best wildebeest bull will find an area that has got the best grazing and got the best access to water, and of course that will attract some of the best females. So it's one of nature's ways of making sure that good genes match up with good genes, I suppose, in some ways. But he doesn't physically keep them together the way an impala ram does. An impala ram runs around. As soon as a female moves even a few yards away from the herd, he runs off and chases her back into the herd. Wildebeest don't really have to do that. It's a little bit more voluntary on the part of the wildebeest females in terms of their presence. Thanks for the question, Jane. Question from Anne in New Jersey. I think I just felt a drop. Why do we tend to find wildebeest and zebra together? Mostly because they well, there are a couple of reasons there, Anne, actually. I couldn't say mostly. One of the reasons is food-wise, wildebeest prefer shorter grasses, and the zebra have a different digestive system. They just eat any grasses, but they often eat grasses short enough for the wildebeest to enjoy. But the other reason is that there are often plains animals that stick together for greater safety reasons. Some people say that the zebra have better hearing and the wildebeest have better eyesight, and so they complement each other from that point of view. I don't think that I can't comment on that either way. They've both got good eyesight, they've both got fairly good hearing, but most definitely because they spend time together, there is a difference in the way they perceive the world around them. So wildebeest might pick up on a predator quicker than zebra, or vice versa. And funnily enough, you'll also find that wildebeest and zebra, if there are giraffe around, the wildebeest and the zebra will migrate to where the giraffe are, and you'll also find that maybe baboons will come in and also congregate in a place. Sometimes you get many different species, and impala too, a number of different species that will be not necessarily seeking each other out, but if they are there, they will feed together, because generally they have different feeding methods or different things that they feed on. When it comes to the grasses and the grazers, obviously it doesn't matter what size animal you are, you can all reach the grass. So nature kind of divides up the grazers into different types of grazers, requiring or favoring different parts of the grass. And then of course when it comes to the browsers who might spend time with the grazers, they might all be eating leaves. So nature just gives them different heights and different sizes. So you've got the little steenbok at the bottom eating the lowest leaves, to the giraffe who's eating the leaves, the giraffe and elephant that are eating the leaves at the top of the trees, limiting the amount of competition, but still allowing them to be together because they can assist each other when it comes to looking out for danger. The more the merrier. And of course, the more people, or rather, let's put it this way, the more animals you hang out with, the less chance that it's going to be you that's going to be targeted by the lion. So the more bodies they have around them, the more secure they feel. And sometimes they can't always have other wildebeest around them. Not really expecting very much to be at, this is Treehouse Dam. Not expecting too much here because it is rather cool. There is a lot of moisture around. There's no need for animals to come and drink as much as it is on a hot, dry day. And temperatures are cool. I think animals are out and about feeding more than anything at the moment, because they've probably been curled up in the bush after the rain, chewing the cud, and now they need to replenish stock of food in their stomachs. Morning everybody, who's here today? You see ripples in the water, which are probably frogs coming up for air. aquatic insect. Maybe we'll sit and listen for a minute. Kirsten in Denmark. I think I got this question the other day and then I was probably somewhat distracted. So I apologize for that, I really do. But this time I'll answer it. Do we get dik-dik here? No, we don't. But it's very interesting, Kirsten, because dik-dik occur in two places. The same species. And there's quite a large geographical area between the two different, let's call it, colonies of dik-dik. Dik-dik, by the way, everybody, are one of the smallest antelope, even smaller than a steenbok, and they mostly occur in East Africa. I've seen them mostly in northern Tanzania and Kenya. Didn't have dik-dik down in southern Tanzania. Well, no, we didn't have dik-dik in the Selous Game Reserve, but there was dik-dik in the Ruaha National Park, which is a little bit further south. But further south from Tanzania, there's no dik-dik until you go right across to the southwestern part of the country to Namibia, or rather the continent, not country, continent, to Namibia. And Namibia has its own population of dik-dik as well. I don't know if historically there's any records of dik-dik being endemic or resident in Namibia, or whether they have been. I heard a theory when I was in East Africa. You see, Namibia was once German Southwest Africa, a German colony, and Tanzania was once a German colony. And there was a theory that dik-dik were taken to Namibia because they were populated there, because people took them there from East Africa. I don't know how true that is, and that was the reason for these two populations that exist, same dik-dik that have, there is no population of them in between. So how did they get from one, how did they get such a wide range of distribution from Namibia to Tanzania? Flyers, please, don't find a buffalo. I suppose it's because we're at a dam and there's lots of buffalo down there. That was Virginia asking a question about shedding skins, snake skin. How long does it take for a snake to shed its skin? Anything that happens in the process. Now, it's not a very long process. It could be anything from 5 to 20 minutes. And it's usually done in, I don't think there's anything that happens in the process other than the snake needing thorns or bark or something to catch onto the skin so that it can help pull the skin off of its body. It starts off by lifting the tip of the snout and the tip of the lip, and it hooks that on a branch, and so it kind of pulls, it's like pulling a sock off inside out, or a stocking. So it peels the skin back, and then the snake writhes whilst the skin is caught on a thorn, and it keeps writhing, finding other thorns as it moves forward, sliding the skin off of its body. So you often find the snake skin wrapped around the branches, wrapped around the thorns. It's probably a good time now for them to do so, because it is the conditions are quite moist. The new scales, the new skin is very, very soft. It takes a little bit of time to harden. I don't know how much time. And obviously with very hot, dry conditions, it can get damaged. So these moist, cool conditions are probably the best time for snakes to shed their skin. Also, when it is hot and dry, the skin might not come off in one piece, even though it is quite moist. It can dry, and then the snake ends up having to take it piece by piece. Brenda, very interesting question, Brenda, and I'm going to see if I can find, before we go into this dip, because the signal might change going into the dip. I want to see, here I can find the head. What did I do with it? Oh, it might have blown away. Can't find the head of the skin, which is important to answer Brenda's question. Brenda wants to know, she's heard that snakes go blind prior to shedding their skin. Wants to know if it's true, and if it is true, why is it true? And it would be a lovely thing, and the next time I see a snake skin, I'm going to be able to show you, Brent. I could probably show you. I've got enough snake skins in my reptile book. I'm sure there's a snake skin in here that's still got an eye on it. Unless someone's been playing with my book. Ah, there's one. Do I have an eye? Not really. A little bit squashed. The best I can do under the circumstances, but maybe if I find another snake skin, I'll try and find it. I think I've lost the top part of this snake skin I found this morning. This is a little bit squashed because it's been in a book for a long time. But here is this round thing, is the eye. Now what's very interesting about snakes is they have a transparent eyelid. Their upper eyelid is permanently shut. So it's a fused eyelid, and it is permanently closed, but it's transparent. So it acts as a shield against the eye, to protect the eye, because a snake, it's very difficult for a snake to clean its eyes, obviously. Doesn't have the tongue like a gecko. Now, just prior to shedding its skin, a snake, the eye becomes opaque, because that eyelid starts coming away from the eye, because the new eyelid is growing underneath. And yes, they do become very, very, well, quite opaque, and then hence the concept that they are blind. I guess they can sense movement, but I guess they can tell the difference between light and dark, and they could probably see something close to them if there was movement close to them. But it is almost like a blindness, and until they hook the part of the snake skin off over their heads, they can't really see very well. Hope that answers your question, Brenda. looking pretty grey there, huh? But fortunately that's further east, so I might not come this way. But that's a bit of rain falling to the east of us, probably over in Coral right now, and that edge of the Kruger National Park. Old elephant dung here, but fresher than I've seen anywhere else today. Susie sent an email, something about an elephant's foot. Did you get it?
The last time.
Oh. Maybe after I go through this pretty low-lying area here, get onto Twin Dams Road, maybe the radio will be a little bit clearer, more audible. Sure, Susie, I'm sure I'll get your question again. Something about an elephant's foot. Maybe give it a minute or so. Get up to Twin Dams Road. What's that running? Oh, it's an Impala. I think we ought to go and just visit Twin Dams again while we're down here. And then I think it's time to go back to quarantine, see what he's up to, see if he's still sleeping, if he's still there, if there's any change. Very interesting. I've just noticed something. You can hear an Egyptian goose alarming, and it's standing on top of a nest. And I don't think that's the goose's nest. I think that's the eagle's nest that the goose is using. Geese don't carry sticks like that to nests. They'll use other nests. There's Wahlberg's nest that. I wonder if it's paying rent. Or I wonder if the Wahlbergs come back and say, who's been in our nest? Now, this is an alarm call. It is upset about something. So first we're going to have a look at twin dams. I think it's looking towards the drainage line. I think there might be something in the Milwaukee River. Sorry, Brian. Get a better view from here. It does seem to be looking up the Milwaukee and complaining. Here, no birds alarming, nothing happening here, so we're going to head up the Milwaukee. This is the Milwaukee River. See if that goose is right about something. Hasn't always been hanging this low. Nothing any tracks down here of a predator. A goose could also do that just because there's another goose flying around or coming close or flying over. Still going. Still complaining. Normally if it's a flyover by another goose, then by now that goose should have calmed down. Down where the kingfish is going. Any place for things in the I think we had a bit of a signal issue last couple of minutes, maybe coming out of the riverbed. Apologies for that. Hope it's all good now. It's a question about an elephant's toe, but I'm gonna have to wait until maybe we're either closer to camp or the number 6 toe. Does it have a special purpose? No, there isn't a 6th toe, Susie. Not on an elephant. 5 toes, but we don't see the toes because the elephant's basically standing on tiptoe, and its foot is in. Now here's a snake skin of note. Wow. I'm going to be a little bit more careful about this one because there are 2 snake skins here actually. 2 different snakes. Yeah, that's a big worm slug. There is occasionally occasionally we see the 3 or 4 toenails, because the toenails are kind of external on the toes. But there definitely isn't a 6th toe on an elephant. Are you here, Mr. Boomslang? So let's see, size-wise, 5 feet to here maybe. Now I could tell that this was a boomslang before I even got close to it, because I guess I found a lot of these, and I've lived with boomslangs a lot, and well, the scaling tells me that. But also here, now getting back to the question about the snake's eyes, if we can just have a look at the head of this beautiful individual, look at the size of that eye. But this is the bottom jaw. I'm just going to peel that back for now. But you can see that the skin of the head has split of the boomslang is that massive eye, and what we are seeing now is the other skin looks very similar to the one I found this morning. It's a very small, it's a smaller version of it. I'll leave that one. But I'd love to have this boomslang skin to show people. Fairly big for a boomslang. They could probably grow a little bit bigger than that, but that is a fairly large individual. Now, I suppose the other thing I should have looked at, here's the tail. This is telling me that this is probably a male boomslang. Where my finger is here, this is where the tail begins. So it's a very, very long, very narrow tail, which is most likely a male. You might find the male of snake species tend to have long, thinner tails. Females have shorter, fatter tails. But I know that this is the tail because this is where the scales change, and where the cloaca is, the cloaca being that organ, that spot on a snake that is, oh no, you know what, I'm wrong. That at least a foot. Me some information on the 6th toe, this elephant's 6th toe. Susie was asking, what is the purpose? She said that it has a special purpose. I'm not too sure if I'm following correctly, but quite amazing, eh, Brian?
Yeah, it's incredible.
Oh, you don't quite get the same.
I've seen.
Yeah, you don't quite get the same effect with the smaller snakes because you can't. The snakes.
That's phenomenal.
But anyway, very interesting question. Guten Morgen. I visited Austria once, loved it. Wanting to know what is, in my opinion, is the reason for the dimorphism, sexual dimorphism in the Nyala, because it is probably one of the most striking of all. Now, sexual dimorphism basically means the male and female appearances, and while birds and fish and lizards and many other things do have a very, very distinct color variation or distinct markings as males or females, not really that often that we find it in the mammal world. Clearly lion have the big mane in places, but for Nyala I think it is because Nyala settle their differences more with display than with physical contact. The little duiker running away. Sorry, little duiker. And I think this is something that has developed because of this visual display that they go through. This. Sorry, were you still on it?
I had a little bit.
Oh, I thought it ran off because I'm concentrating. The road on the right hand side of the road, something has been dragged. Normally it's a body that's being dragged that makes noise like that. I mean noise. Marks. Noise. I'm making the noise. Excuse me, I want to have a look at this before I drive on top of it. Whatever it was, it appears to even the minutest shadow in an almost non-existent track, and it looks like it's possibly, there is hyena track there, but I think it's possibly a cat and maybe hyena on top of it, following the scent trail of it. We're going to drive along and have a look. Looks like one of them stood on a beetle, a very interesting beetle. a ground beetle, doesn't have wings. A lot of sticklers shouting up there. If I don't find anything here, I'm going to go back that way. It's very hard to see which way things have been dragged. This, by the way, is a little beetle known as a tok-toki, and it's a ground beetle. It has a very interesting hard end segment to its abdomen, and the way this beetle finds a mate, is it knocks. It uses that hard abdomen to knock on a stone or a dead leaf, and it has a Morse code that it uses to find a mate. I wonder if we shouldn't maybe just first try down there. I'm kind of thinking it's the sticklers, or it could even be prinias. Are making some noise here, and I'm not seeing the grasses flatten. Warming up very quickly. All of us. Viewers are asking about Tacoma. Well, yeah, he thought since the thumb was coming out today, he thought maybe he'd join the thumb. The magnetic monkey. Yes, Kakama is there. Sitting on the microphone with my tracker this morning. He's the one that found the drag marks. But he can't tell me anything more about it. Put that boomslang skin. Oh, that's what that was. The birds were shouting at that. There's a slender mongoose and we can't really see much of it. Good luck with that, Brian. What are you eating? It's got something. Definitely eating something. But unfortunately, maybe if I move forward with its tail as it sneaks off, I'm wondering if maybe it didn't raid. That's what the sticklers were shouting at. So we can get back to these drag marks now. That's a little mongoose, mostly solitary. A lot longer than the dwarf mongoose. There it is. It's going to come out onto the road maybe.
Yeah, I'd like to.
It's just amongst that quarry, the base of that quarry now. Yeah, here it comes. About to, probably creature, the slender mongoose. Ferocious little things. Not weasel family, these are mongoose at Gowrie Dam. I wonder if maybe that wasn't a hyena. That'd be interesting to see. We're going to go. Let's see if there's anything left there. I'm hoping that there's some new viewers, and you might be wondering what we're talking about. Well, we encountered a leopard that had killed a Impala 2 days ago in the morning, and we were there this morning. If you weren't with us when we opened up this morning, we started off with him. He was sleeping at the base of the tree. I noticed a little bit of skin and a little bit of meat still on the carcass. Mostly it was the leg bones, and I suppose a little bit of the spine that was left with a little bit of skin. So it's not really that much for him to feed on, other than for him to just chew on bone and things. So I'm hoping, well, we're going to go back and see if he's there. If there has been any change, because it could well be that after this morning, we will come back this afternoon. We'll try and find out if there's any change this afternoon too. But there's a chance that it might all be concluded by this afternoon. Maybe he's moved off. Might be a chance too that he's going to get thirsty and want to come down for a drink. For those of you who might be watching our Djuma waterhole camera, has moved a little bit. Or was it like that when we were here this morning?
Looks like it moved a little bit.
I think it's moved a little bit. It was hanging differently this morning. A bunch of squirrels around. I can't see him though. He was sleeping at the base of this tree. So maybe that's the end of it. Remote possibility that he might come back later tonight. There's a lot of bits of bone on the ground there now. Just where he was earlier. So I think he's been back up there feeding. But that he has now moved on. So I guess the only thing we can do is keep an eye out on the area. But the two front legs hanging down with, I guess, bits of shoulder blade. There is a little bit of the rump still left higher up the thigh and on the top of the back leg, so there is still a bit of feeding to be done. The pieces that are falling, I'm guessing, are bits of vertebra. And I can't hear any alarm calls that can tell me anything about what direction he took. There are a lot of vehicle tracks here that he possibly would have walked out on, so I'm not going to be able to see anything on the ground that will tell me which direction he went in. Quite interesting that hyena, although there were hyena here, they didn't hang around that long. So no point in hanging out if there's nothing here. Hanging around. Maybe just look at one or two of the bushes around here to see if he maybe moved away, but our only chance, I guess, is to see if there are some tracks on the roads later on. And of course, to follow up on those drag marks at the hyena, where those hyena tracks were. Adida ibises shattering the silence. Can I tell you about the immune system of leopards? They don't pick up diseases from the prey that they eat. I can tell you that there are a number of things that they can pick up. Anthrax, of course, is one of them that the immune system can't deal with. Then there is the question of interspecific contamination, whether a disease or a pathogen or something that affects a herbivore, whether the same thing can affect a carnivore. Now I know that lion can pick up TB from buffalo, and it does affect them, and their immune system obviously can't deal with it. I can't tell you much about a leopard's immune system at all, since I really don't know. I haven't done any study in that area at all. Morning, Hornbill. Want to say hello to everybody in the world? Looking at something on the road, or in the bush. On the road. I've just heard on the radio that there's a big male leopard up on cheetah cutline. Which is on the top of that far ridge. And unfortunately we're not going to have time now, but we will certainly follow up on that this afternoon. That very far ridge that you can see in the distance is where cheetah cutline is. It isn't really that far, but it's certainly not close enough to get there in the next few minutes. And I'll have to find out from the guys which way it went. Being cheetah cutline right on our boundary, hopefully it'll come this way. If I'm thinking who I think it is no, that doesn't make sense, does it? If it is who I'm thinking it is, that makes more sense. Rest in peace, little beetle. Toki. Mvula, most likely. And since he hasn't been around here for a while and it's been raining, maybe he's coming back to just check on his territory after the rain, and we'd be lucky enough to find him later. This is ideal cat weather. Cats can move around in this a lot, so could be that he'll be walking around for quite a while. Could be why quarantine isn't there. Maybe he's also gone a walkabout, leaving the area where his kill is, because by now it's giving off a fairly strong smell, no doubt. Allowed to stick around. So after a wonderfully peaceful morning and very interesting questions, I have to thank you very much for sending in all the questions this morning. It's been absolutely wonderful. My name is Mark. Brian has been on camera with me this morning with the trusty thumb, and Tara has been sending those questions through from Final Control. And from all of us here at Wild Earth, I hope you have a pleasant night if you're going to bed. But we'll see you 3 o'clock Central African time this afternoon. Love you lots.